Thank you for joining the Grim and Bloody Theater. Today we have Braden Duemmler, writer and director for What Lies Below, that is right now being featured on Netflix. And you definitely have to check out this horror mystery because it is not what you're expecting when you turn it on. Thank you for joining us, Braden. It was a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for spending some time as we talk about your feature. And let me go ahead and introduce my co-host, Joe Flynn. Host this time, not a producer.
Thank you.
He wanted to specifically be called a host, although he is a producer as well. Create TV, how you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent. Kevin Nickelson, writer for Horrors Newsnet. Thank you for putting all the work in lining up everybody while I review submissions for the Death Parade Film Festival. Appreciate your hard work behind the scenes.
Thank you, and I specifically request to be called writer.
Writer.
Oh,
okay. Well, we're getting all fancy here. Okay. And Al Omega, I know you're super busy on all sorts of sets that you still can't talk about, but thank you for taking the time out and joining us tonight. Appreciate it, guys.
And I'm happy to be a host too, until it comes out of me.
I just finished What Lies Below, and I can tell you that I was intrigued by the trailer before I knew that we were bringing you on the show. Not with the big buff guy comes out of the water. Definitely looks like a Fabio 2.0. But when I was watching the film, it took me in a direction that I really wasn't expecting to go. It reminded me of the film, what's it called, Stepfather, or The Stepfather? You know, a man who's introduced to the family, kind of, you know, one wants to fit in, but he definitely has a darker side. And then it totally just went in a completely different direction. I love it when movies kind of tease you with the, you know, the trailer you're expecting, oh, it's gonna be great. And then while you're watching, it just kind of veers into another direction. Like, wait, I thought we were going this way, but you're taking me this way, and I don't know what's happening here. And that's when the tension that's building kind of, you start getting that payoff, like the audience gets a little unsettled. And that was the feeling all the way up and towards the end, like everything unexpected up until he's introduced to the family. You think you know what's going to happen next until all the little things start appearing on the surface. And you know, buy and hold, that was a very good production. We have a ton of questions regarding the film, and you know how you got on Netflix. That's an achievement on its own.
Yes.
Yeah, featured in October, no less. So without further ado, before we get into it, let's go ahead and run the trailer for everybody so they know what we're talking about.
Absolutely. I hope everyone enjoys the trailer for What Lies Below.
All right, guys, enjoy this trailer.
Well, how was camp? Any good digs?
Yeah, some.
We're here!
Hey!
This is my boyfriend, John.
It's a pleasure to finally meet you. I hope you don't mind that I'm here. I know it's your lake house and I'm not trying to take away time with your mom.
It's important to me that you're okay with this. I'm happy for you guys. How did you guys meet?
I've been at the lake all year, studying a few species here.
You're kind of a weird dude.
I guess I am. But I mean, weird is cool, right?
Do you always lock the doors when you sleepwalk? I saw you walk into the lake towards this light.
I'm pretty dry.
I love him so much. He's not normal.
If we're gonna be a family, we have to learn how to forgive and forget. Right, Libs?
Get off of him!
Liberty!
Get out!
Yay!
That was the fastest trailer I ever did see. Not even time enough to go to the bathroom, you know?
Of course not.
Oh, it was a good trailer. I mean, it's we were talking about how you have this character that he's joining a family. In my alternate life as I actually I got married very late in life, and my wife had a 18-year-old daughter by a previous marriage. And so watching a lot of the interactions in this looked familiar, and I read that you did some research on this, and I thank you for doing the work to make this actually feel real. I could really see the tension, still looking at it from the point of view that he was going to be a good guy. That this was all because in the beginning, you're not quite sure. You think it's her. She comes. I noticed she's wearing the pajama bottoms at this school or the camp, and she comes home, meets the nice hunky boyfriend, and decides to have to put on a nice frilly dress and come down. But then doesn't seem to like mom kissing. Is she jealous? I thought it was going to go, more like The Babysitter.
Yeah.
In fact, seeing the preview with the bit where he goes in the water and then he materializes behind her dry, I was wondering if you were going to actually go with the whole thing with the poisonous centipede actually possibly having hallucinogenic properties.
Okay.
And it's all in her head. I thought this might wind up being a purely psychological thriller.
Okay, cool.
And
Yeah,
he kept
it could have gone in
really,
that direction too.
really on the edge, not really giving up anything till you absolutely had to. And that was really cool.
Oh, well, thank you. I particularly love films that have a lot of twists and turns. I love TV shows the same way. And I love films and TV shows with a really strong narrative drive. I'm not a big fan of just people talking in rooms. I want something to be looming and, tall tale heart kind of thing. And, John Smith is that for us, and I think that the way we designed the film is we wanted it to be a female gaze film. We wanted it to be Libby's perspective, looking at this man and awakening her sexuality in a little bit, making her sexually curious for the first time in her life. And I think in an odd way, the side effect of that is that the audience almost roots for the train wreck. They're kind of pulled along thinking, are these two gonna do something? And then when we finally get to the boat,
Yes.
the film is designed, that moment is designed to make you aware of your own desire in that moment, where you've been pulling for them to hook up, and then all of a sudden you see this phallus and the blood, and you're like, oh my God, I don't want that at all.
That's right.
We worked hard to create that, and I'm glad it worked for you all. And there was a lot of research. I'd never written a female character before, and I was kind of petrified because I didn't want to be one of those people on. Not that I haven't read a female character, but I never read a female protagonist before, and so I was kind of terrified I was going to be one of those people online that gets just lit up on Twitter or something like that. And so I read a lot of books about teenage psychology for women and what they go through, young women. And I found it so interesting how much they analyze everything and how much they think about everything. And every choice they make, they think of the 10 possible scenarios that could come out of that. That's something that young men don't do as much. They're much more linear, it seems, and I thought that was a really interesting aspect. And I tried to put that into Libby's character, where she's always second guessing and being gaslit a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say I enjoyed that. But I'll let the others go on here. I have so many things.
No, I was just, I'm looking at it kind of from a different tack, in that what I appreciated, I look at characterizations, how characters are written, and I appreciated the fact that your two protagonists are damaged, very damaged people. A teenager who is, damaged by divorce of parents, who's damaged by simply being, being a teenager, going through puberty and growth. And then you have the mom, who is an alcoholic, feeling completely unloved, very broken individual. And I really appreciated how you presented those two.
Yes, very lightly touched on the alcoholism. You didn't hit us over the head with that one.
Yes.
Right.
I think it does get hit over the head sometimes, and we were trying to be a little bit more subtle with it. Yeah. Thank you.
It did work.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the mother-daughter linkage. There was some familiarities to Babadook, if you guys familiar with that one, with the mother and the son. And there was just so much tension in between them two. You could have had a film even without the apparition. But I also wanted to shout out respect to Trey Tucker. Who, if anybody, if you guys are familiar with Netflix, my wife, when you guys were speaking, my wife poked in. I think she wanted to meet you, Braden. She's usually not interested in my shows. But this one was because it attracts a wider audience on Netflix. If you guys are familiar with Netflix, there's multiple genres, obviously, and there's multiple audiences, and there's a big, huge female audience that they have their own shows. But this one, it mixes into theirs, and the trailer definitely plays on Trey Tucker's physique. Obviously, he's smooth. He's a man's man. He definitely, you're thinking, oh, I know where this one's going, right? And there's definitely a heightened sense of eroticism in the film, but that's the ploy. That's what baits you in. You're thinking, I've seen this kind of film before, right? You've seen the hunky stepdad, the mother who's, I just need to get this right. The daughter's like, oh my God, here we go again. Or I can't believe dad just passed, right? The dirt's still soft and you already brought this guy in. But that's the bait and switch. You lured him in with this guy, and the actor's credit, he has amazing range because he sells it. At the same time, he has his own agenda, and that slowly comes to the surface. So that was definitely written. I appreciate being led as many horror films we've seen when you're watching one, and you just can't see where it's going, because I thought this was the road that you clearly marked, right? There was definitely some familiarity at the beginning, and then it just sort of starts veering off. So it was a good story, and it's probably going to get a lot of people who are tuning in expecting something like, gotcha, it's not quite that, and that's called subverting it. I turned it on its head. Those are the good ones, and I'm glad it was on Netflix because it's a wonderful presentation. It's an awesome platform, and congratulations to you for getting such a massive audience for your work. Cheers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We were joking around a bit here before we got on here, and we see a lot of horror movies, okay, and we see movies with bad filming and bad scripting and whatnot, and sometimes it's only the amount of cleavage that we see that really makes the movie digestible.
Right.
And
except for somebody like me, it's I'm like the lone ganger, so I'm
sure this guy Kevin goes like, oh wait a minute.
Well, no. I was thinking of you. I was saying here, first of all, when he comes out of the water in that scene, I thought it was my good friend Jason Zlatkus, who's an actor out in LA, and a very similar gentleman. But here's kudos to you for giving the girls the eye candy in just the right amount. I think I'm not a woman, so I'm not sure, but I think that you gave them the right amount of eye candy here in a movie like this. I think a lot of women are going to fall in love with this guy and want to spend the time with him, and I think that they're going to identify with Mom a lot. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of the younger women will identify with the daughter, but still, I think you're going to make a really good connection there to your audience.
Well, thank you. I mean, we definitely worked hard on that. Trey and I worked really close, hand in hand, to create that character. We talked a lot about his backstory, where he's from, all those things that kind of affect or kind of define what he's after. And as far as what's interesting about it is there's no nudity in the film, yet people find it to be very sexual.
Yeah.
And I think that the best reasoning I can give for that is because we fetishize a male's body instead of a female's body, which is what typically filmmakers do, as you just pointed out. Typically it's, women that get looked at through the camera as a sexual object. And in this case, we were actually looking at Trey in that way. And I think because of that, I think it's uncomfortable for some viewers because they're so not used to viewing men like that, unless they're, from the Roman Empire where male bodies were sexualized, and so I think, I found it so fascinating that people would always talk about the sexuality of the film, and yet it's so PG, with everything that, like, it's literally just, some hand rubs and, there is like that one scene that she walks in on, but for the most part, it's very behind closed doors. It's just, it's interesting to see how people react to your work. You always focus on character, story, and you let that guide you. And I just didn't anticipate some of the reactions that we received, which were really eye-opening and interesting from my end.
You achieved the eroticism on a PG. Oh, sorry, Joe. You achieved the eroticism, in my opinion, by just giving enough to know what's happening without actually showing the details. Like, for example, the daughter walking in the hallway and you can hear the moaning coming from it, right? Or she cracks open the door, and that's usually what a child's doing, because the child, when they're that cracking the door open, you kind of know what to expect as you're cracking. That's where you're cracking the door open. You're not just walking in, unexpectedly. You're cracking the door because you want to see what's happening. So everything around the peripherals was provided, and that's a good tool to allow the imagination to fill in the blanks. You provide just enough sensory dialogue, the brain will fill in the rest. So we're thinking, we're seeing all and hearing, we're seeing all this, we're experiencing, but we're really only seeing snippets, right? For her in the shower, although he is topless for most of the film.
Yes.
You guys save money on
that,
costs.
I'd be topless too.
Exactly. Yeah.
The interesting thing is, though, you managed to not make it seem like, as Anthony says, topless, throughout a lot of the film. You managed to not make it seem like he's taking his shirt off just cause.
Right.
That could be made into some kind of joke. There's a whole purpose.
There's a real purpose, yeah.
Beyond that, and I wanted to turn it around a little bit. What fascinated me was that set, that Hudson Falls house, the basement set. To me was creepy.
Oh, cool.
You can, as we talked before about lighting and camera angles and so forth, and how you could do that so badly on a set. I thought that basement with the shadows and the aquarium tanks and so forth were just there's a certain sense of the sinister and the wonder, of it. And I had all kinds of emotions watching that set, watching any scene that was happening in that set.
Oh, awesome.
Talk about that a little bit. Were there? How did you come across that house? First of all.
Yeah. So, first of all, I have to give credit to the team that built the set, which was Monica Dabrowski, who was a production designer, and Maggie, and oh my goodness, I'm gonna forget the name, and I'm gonna feel terrible. Hold on.
Yeah, go look it up.
No worries.
But we worked really hard on that. The set, and one of the big things that affected the set was that tank at the end, because that tank is a massive set piece, and it was really important. You know, if it was anything else, I think it would have looked corny, and we needed that particular one. The two art directors are Taylor Berry and Maggie Kimball, who both did incredible work on the production design, along with Monica. And so, so we had a location set up for that set, and a week before we realized we can't actually get the tank into that other set. So they had to turn around that other set in like less than a week, because while we're shooting, because of the logistics. And I talked to Monica. I just had a really honest conversation with her. I said, listen, if we don't have that tank, I think the set is never going to work. Like it just needs that focal point that is the cage, so to speak, and that's where the birth happens. So but yeah, we shot up in Bolton Landing near Glens Falls, New York, and we actually shot 3 exterior houses, 2 exterior houses and 1 interior house to make it all look like one house. The reason for that was because the interior house we found was just absolutely stunning. Like it just had a feel to it. We absolutely needed it, but the outside of it didn't work logistically for our shoot. And one of the reasons it didn't work was because of the moment when John Smith walks into the water in Lake George, New York. It's got a lot of cliffs. So there's very difficult to find a gradual walk into the water. And to me, that's what makes that walk so eerie. So I was literally going all around the lake with Andrew Meter, who was the location manager, and he's the commissioner of Glen Falls film up there. And we were literally walking into these little like lakes and these little beaches in the backyard, trying to see if we could walk down gradually, or if it was too much of a cliff or too rocky to actually pull that off. And finally, we found a great location, the night residence, and we shot the 2 exterior scenes, the exterior of the house and the exterior of the lake, right on that one property. It's actually 2 separate houses, but they look like they're the same. And it's a battle. I firmly believe, personally, and the cinematographer I work with all the time, Jimmy Liu, does the same thing, that I would rather have horrible lighting equipment, horrible camera, and a great set and a great location than have all the tools in the world and be shooting a white wall. It makes such, there's only so much you can do, especially when we're low budget. We were super low budget film. There's only so much you can do with the sets and with the surroundings. You just have to find a great location. So I'm glad that it stood out for you, Kevin. It's really hard to find it.
That's it. That's interesting that you talk about that. About the importance of the great set. To me, it's like I reiterate from before. You could have a great set, but you could so easily fuck it up with lighting, with bad camera angles, which fortunately it did not happen here. Well, it was really well handled.
Well, thank you. And it was actually in an old ice rink. We built that, so it's not out on stage. And the lighting scheme was all designed around basically the light in the lake. That light in the lake was, in our mind, that color was incubation for John Smith. It's where he goes to heal. It's where he does all of his experiments. And so then once we had that, we wanted to contrast it with like a cyan color, and that's what gets you all those vivid lights. We wanted to have much more black lights, but we couldn't afford it because we wanted the writing on the wall to really stand out too, his alien writing. But there's only you got to make sacrifices here and there, right? So, and that was one of them.
Joe, you had a question
here? Yeah, I did. I was reading an interview from another article talking about how you grew up near Lake George where you filmed.
Mm-hmm.
So was it, like you're thinking, this is a great location to film a film. What was it that drew you back to Lake George?
Well, it was a couple things. The Adirondacks are actually one of the biggest natural wildlife preserves in the entire North America, like even in Canada. They're a massive wilderness that are protected by the state, and there are a ton of lakes throughout them. And so when I was looking for locations, we knew we needed a lake house. And one of the, I was already kind of looking at New York for another script that I was going to try to make and see if we could get funding for. And that one didn't work out as well because it just turned out that this What Lies Below was a cheaper script that we can make with more limitations. And so that's what really drew me back up there was the wilderness, was the fact that they had so many lakes and so many mountains and just the perfect look for the setting. And the other thing was just, right now there's a lot of tax incentives in New York to shoot. And, especially when you're low budget, even when you're big budget, you're looking for tax breaks, anything you could do to mitigate the cost of the film. And we were really fortunate to thank you to the state of New York to get those tax breaks. I'm sure the financiers are very happy with those because that helps a lot, right? But yeah, I grew up, going up there for summer vacation with my mom. I used to have, there was this one ranch that I used to go horseback riding on because I just loved this horse named Chester. And when I was a little kid, I always used to go up and visit Chester for like 3 or 4 summers. And Lake George always had fond memories for me because of that. And so I think all those things combined to really bring our production back up there. But it was mostly a producing decision because of the tax breaks.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about Mena Suvari. How do you? So you're talking a SAG Award winner,
right?
A BAFTA nominee.
Yeah.
One of the stars of American Beauty, which I think is a fantastic film.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who's who is not hesitant to do horror. She did The Rage Carrie too, and other things. How did you get her for the for this role? And this is a role which is unlike anything that she's done before.
I think that's maybe one of the reasons that she was attracted to it. We had an incredible casting director. Her name is Katrina Wendell George, who I'm still very close with and working with on my next project. And she was relentless. It was one of her first films that she was actually going to be credited as the casting director instead of like an associate casting director or whatever. And she had done a ton of stuff. She'd worked on True Grit. She'd worked on all these other films, but this was her first film that she was the casting director, I believe. And so, and because of that, and because of her appreciation of the script, she really connected to it. And because of, us vibing really well, she was nonstop. She would be calling managers and agents, trying to get people to read the script, which is difficult when you're a low budget film. It's tough to go after those bigger name stars. And sure enough, we finally got it into the hand of Mena's manager, Oren. And Oren liked it and then sent it to Mena, and Mena loved it. And then I met up with her at a coffee shop in LA, and she grilled me for a good hour and a half about how are you going to pull this off? How are you going to do this? Like as she should, because, she has to look out for her, like she wants to make a good film, and so she has to look out for that. And I, tried to have an answer for every question she had and told her how we were going to pull everything off and was very honest with her about all the different aspects of the film. And within 10 minutes of leaving the meeting, I got a phone call from one of her producers, Abel Van, and he said she loves it, she wants to do it. And I was on cloud 9 for.
You did a happy dance
yes.
Up and down the street.
I was driving off the road, and then going into the film, I was very honest with Mena. I said, Mena, listen, you're more experienced than I am. You're gonna kind of be my rock through this because, you've been through the grind before. I've only shot short films. I've never had to shoot this long for this many days. and I'm going to rely on you a lot. And I did that throughout the production. Whenever we were running out of time, I would always save Mena's coverage for last, because I knew no matter what, she was going to bring it, right? She wasn't going to get tired. She wasn't going to be 50%. She was going to be 100% every take. And that is the sign of a real professional and somebody who is really, really talented beyond that. And I had a great experience with all the cast. They're all so incredibly gifted, from Haskiri to Emma, who's now in Lord of the Rings, and Trey, who's now in Heels on Stars. They're all kind of blowing up in different ways, and I'm really excited to see where their careers go. And Haskiri is in Saved by the Bell. She's the main character in Saved by the Bell remake, so really blowing up in a good way. So,
well, I wanted to touch on the ending to What Lies Below, because as I mentioned, the film takes you into a place you didn't know that you were going to go. And it's a controversial ending. I'll say it's not the ending that you expect, because we as an audience of fiction in general, we expect happy endings. We expect, Ripley to kill the alien at the end.
Right.
We expect the Dark Lord Sauron to get his ends. We expect our heroes to ride off in the sunset, no matter how much pain and suffering they suffered, in the first 90 minutes, 2 hours. And this film, it doesn't give you that. This film gives you an ending, because if you're looking at it from a literal sense, you see who the antagonists are. You see the women, and you can tell from the get-go, they didn't have a chance. And I can't think of any, even if you put anyone else in their position, I don't see them having a chance, because the character, John, was so convincing in his charisma, his attitude, the way he carried himself. I'm going to take care of her. Don't worry about her. I want to make sure that we're all happy. He integrated himself so closely that he had power. And I really struggled. Like, I was thinking, maybe are the girls just, are they weak-willed? Towards the end, you get to understand that they were clearly overpowered by a superior race. And I think now, you don't actually come out and spell this, but I think in the beginning, when John is explaining why he's in the water, and it's a protracted, it's a deliberate presentation of his purpose for being there. I think, and this is my guess, but I think he was also detailing why he's really, really there. It's double speak, and I was starting to get that, like, maybe he's really talking about something else here. And I think my guess is right, because at the end you really see that it feels like she's having this baby that's an alien because he wants to transfer maybe his genes on it. He wants to see, maybe it's the whole thing is an experiment. I love not having the whole thing explained to me also. I don't like 45 minutes of exposition in the beginning. I don't need that. Sometimes I like finding it out as we go along. But I think if this is the beginning and ending matchup, I think from the very get-go, they were in control all the way until the very end. That's how it ends. This is the story. Love it or hate it, these are the aliens. They're here. They're working their stuff, and it doesn't matter who is with them. They're just pawns. They're as helpless as the parasites in the water. As strong as they are, they're in a glass cage, and they really didn't have a chance. How far off am I?
You're very on. I always described John Smith's race, his species, as far in advance of ours. And they create an exoskeleton that is supposed to be an Adonis, that is designed to attract women, particularly redheaded women. And that exoskeleton is very expensive to make, but the algorithm inside of it to change the personality isn't a big deal. So as a result, they all look the same. And that was my thinking on all of that. There is, it's surprising to me because I think that the film is very dark, but there is a moment where you actually see the spaceship. It's under the water when Libby accidentally dunks her the little beetle into the and so John Smith is very much an extraterrestrial. He is here collecting specimen, and that's why some of the dialogue gets very awkward. It's because he doesn't talk about them as if they are women. He talks about them as if they are a scientific experiment, as if they are a specimen. And so some of it feels off, but that's the reason it feels off, is because he's locked into that mindset. I'm not sure if that answered all your questions, but I actually really enjoy dark endings.
That was great. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I liked it.
Yeah, I personally really like dark endings because they always surprise me.
They do.
Like you said, we're so caught up in happy endings that, you know, sometimes it's actually nice to be surprised by an ending and not see it coming. And I think also, you know, I think one of the reasons that maybe it was such a polarizing film was because it's such a bleak ending, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. And
Right.
want to see this shit
Everybody wants to be happy.
Right.
Yeah, so
no one wants
They
to
should
see
kill
a
the
bleak
superior
ending.
race. They should find their one weakness.
everybody wants Ted Lasso right now. You know,
Right.
it's a great show because it's just, you can't not love Ted Lasso, right?
It's okay.
That's
You know what?
right.
The Thing bombed in theaters. Everyone hated it, and now it's one of the most beloved horror movies of all time. So don't worry.
No, I look at it this way. When I was watching the trailer, it kind of reminded me of another classic sci-fi film, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, thank
Oh, I
you.
was going to go with Mars Needs Women.
There you go.
Because for me, seeing when he's talking about the lampreys there, about how the evolving and the salinity and had to be done quickly, it really, you didn't say it, but being a sci-fi geek, at the top of everything, I really got the idea that they're from a planet where, for whatever reason, their ecology and climate is changing quickly, and they need help adapting. So they're not inherently evil creatures. They're just,
I like that angle.
It's
they're doing what they have to do to make it work, which may involve, you know, other people from other planets and all. But like I said, they're not inherently evil, but they got a job to get done here to survive.
Yeah, in my mind, they're actually from a freshwater planet,
Mhm.
and so they're trying to figure out how to live, and they're deathly allergic to salt, and they're trying to figure out how to create a species that would be able to survive on Earth. And they actually need water. That's why every time you see John Smith, he's either touching water or drinking water.
He says that.
Yeah, he's either touching water or drinking water in every single scene because he needs it to breathe. He's like the reverse of a whale, if you would say.
Yes.
And so for those reasons, and their planet becoming overpopulated, they're trying to come here and create and extend their species' life.
Is there a scenario going on his planet that regarding in any way a lack of sexuality or even regarding procreation? Because there seems to be a fascination with that he needs to procreate.
Yeah.
He needs to this film is very much about him experiencing sexuality as much as him doing anything else. And I'm just wondering if it was something Al pointed out about Mars Needs Women. I was just wondering if it was something like that there's something that's maybe something else that's dying on his world.
The way I perceived it was that this has been a regular, transport or export out of the Earth for a while, because they're constantly doing these experiments, and as a result, it's turned into a very valuable commodity. Like redhead women have become a very valuable commodity on his planet, and I mean that sounds terrible to say, but that is the way I saw it. and their experiments are very much based in sexuality. One of the reasons he impregnates Mena's character, Michelle's character, thinking that he can crack the code, and finally make a life form that can survive the salt water of the earth. But obviously we don't have to give the ending away, but that's the idea, is that's what those women are headed towards. I mean, that's why it's so bleak.
But we do see him.
It up for the sequel.
Yeah. We do see him in one scene though, where he's actually, there's one scene earlier on in the film where he's actually, where the daughter opens the bedroom door and finds him while he's caressing.
Flagrante delicti.
Yeah, well, he's just like laying in bed next to Mena Suvari's character, and he is just caressing her as if he is experiencing this incredible, moment. It's not really sexual. It's just sensual more than more than anything.
Oh yeah, I remember that scene.
Yeah, and it just seems like he is like we don't have this on my world.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying this.
It's because she might be the ideal specimen, and
right.
As soon as he realizes that she actually is a redhead genetically on the boat, that's when all of a sudden the switch turns and it becomes predator. He becomes a predator on her. And because all of a sudden he cares less about Michelle, it's more about, can I get her too, and so yeah, that's what you were probably feeling in that scene, right. And that's the way it's designed. It's supposed to be creepy as hell, right? And very uncomfortable, because we talked about Trey. I mean, you don't respect humans; they're beneath you. They don't know your technology. Sorry, my dog's barking. Hey.
The dog loves it.
No, they aren't as advanced as you, and as a result, that's the way he looks at them. Hey, stop! Come here, Felix.
He wants you to put him in his next film.
Yeah.
He wants you to come on. Your dog wants a part in the next film.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He can be the annoying dog, like in the Boogans, that realizes that he's actually an see, and no one listens to the dog. Now, talking about the sex appeal, I actually got a very different vibe from it. I saw it more as someone controlling another one. I mean, mom is supposed to be middle-aged and not looking bad, but everyone wants to feel special, and here he is catering to her.
She has that special thing, scratching.
Yeah, he's doing everything that she might like to keep her there and to make her amenable and receptive. So I saw it I rather than see it as something like, oh, this is something I don't have at home. This is, maybe a zookeeper with his favorite animal.
Right. Yeah. So as far as Michelle's, the way she views John, I think she sees it because I believe Kevin was the one who pointed out that because she's so broken, because even her father rejected her in a way, and she's always kind of searching for love. She feels in many ways this is her last chance at it, and as a result, she clings to it. Kind of the way she clings to Libby, because that's really her only emotional connection.
I love that desperate motivation. That just plunges a character in the ways that they wouldn't normally go.
Yeah.
Alien rebound love.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way John sees Michelle is very much, I have this one already, and he's been kind of waiting to see Liberty, to see what's, who is this next, right? One of the lines he says very early on is to Libby is, we should have a party. You should invite your friends. I mean, he's fishing for more. He's not satisfied with one specimen, and so that's kind of the vibe of it. It's just that John, like Anthony said, John is just very much in control, very much very arrogant, very above these people, and that's the way he sees it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's like, yeah, as you're saying, he's fishing for more for the alien species to make more babies, bring them to Mars, wherever.
Now, if you haven't gathered from us, we enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
And I will say, I really like the lighting and the camera angles. Very well done. I have one gripe.
Okay.
Because I'm the guy that I took notes when stuff was happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Watching these movies as a kid, especially whenever you have an occult movie and they bring out the Black Book of Curses, I was writing down what they were saying. This might need that later.
Right.
So my big complaint was what came out of the tank. We didn't get to see.
I know.
We didn't need to see it, but I wanted to see it.
Yeah, and I'm very aware that the audience wants to see that. But I'm also aware that I think anything that we would be able to make on our budget would be a letdown.
Good point.
And so I struggled with that. And it was something that while I was writing it, I was really trying to make that decision. And in the end, I always feel like something about our psyche is always darker than the films we see. Our imagination can be much darker than what we're given sometimes. And maybe it's best in a moment like that to just let the audience's mind run wild and really, think about what that little baby might look like. Right?
See, that's what Al's not saying is he wanted to see the baby so his imagination wouldn't create the ultimate fuck fest kind of creature demon that he's thinking of right now. He just wants to see what you created. Like, oh, okay, so that's what it looks like. I can go and
I want to see it. I'm going to go look.
Be imagining this horrible thing that probably has this face on it.
I know. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it from the other perspective, though. I'm looking at it, from. I'm glad I don't, see it, because what's in your mind is you got crazy shit going on in your images in your mind about what this baby looks like, what this creature looks like. Yeah. So I'm happy that it's kind of Lovecraftian in that you don't really see. Leave it to your imagination a little bit.
It's also inconsequential because the baby doesn't survive. If you're paying attention to the scene.
I don't think he actually says that the baby doesn't survive.
He says like, no, it can't be. And it looks like, and get me wrong, I got the impression that what comes out of John is this kind of life force, this kind of connection. He puts it in the baby. That's what it looks like. Blue to me feels like life, especially at the cradle, like the breath of life. It felt like the baby didn't survive, so it didn't matter because of the way they were talking. So by showing the baby, it wouldn't have contributed to a story. And you keep mentioning, Braden, that the film is low budget. It didn't look like a low budget film. It looked like it looked like you had a Hollywood budget. You had professional camera work. You had professional cinematography. You had the right location. We've been humbled by the number of films that we've had that have said this is low budget, but just the skillmanship behind the camera negates that kind of, like, it doesn't look low budget at all. It looks like
heck with all that, you have a SAG award-winning actress in this film.
You spent the money where you needed it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it actually is really true. If you are going to spend on something, cast is probably the best, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that can have any predicted value once the film is ready to be sold. Really nothing else does. Genre has a little bit of predicted value, but for the most part, it's just name brand recognition of great actors and actresses doing their thing. But I thank you for saying that. I have to give credit to, everyone from the producers, Stephen Stanley, Christina Esposito, and Abel Bain, to the cinematographer, Jimmy Liu, the art department, Taylor Berry, Maggie, and Monica Dabrowski, and just everyone, like the whole team. They really fought for it because they believed in it, and I think that's really why it was elevated beyond the budget that it was at.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Kevin.
No, I'll tell you too. You have to, let's add a credit to Braden here, but not as director. How about as music writer? Girls, Girls, Girls
Oh, yes.
on the soundtrack.
Motley Crue?
Yes.
Are you talking about the crew?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, it was so funny because I was when I was writing the script, I just kind of threw something in there, you know, because I just wanted to give the impression that Michelle's character is very much about her sexuality. She's very open. She's very liberated in a lot of ways, and as a result, Emma, you know, Libby has kind of course corrected and become much more conservative and reserved and about her mind. And I find that fascinating that young women go through that with their parents. They the push and the pull, the fight for independence and the fight and the you know, assault of dependence, you know. But yeah, so I just threw that in there to kind of show Michelle's, you know, what Michelle's all about, and that Libby very well knows that. And then when we got closer production, I was like, maybe I should just stick with it, you know? like
it was fun.
I called up my buddy Max Powers, who I used to work in a management company called Stampede Management here for music. And I was like, Max, can you help me do this? And he was like, yeah, no problem, I got you. And he figured it out and made a little rhythm and got a singer attached and everything. And I was so happy.
That's awesome.
You know, it was really, you know, like I look back at it now and maybe I could have done more with that. You know, maybe it's just a little bit too on the money and a little corny, but you know, whatever. It's fun, you know, and a film should start off on a little bit of a high note there, and then especially with such a bleak ending.
Come on, though, you had to have been a headbanger back in the day. Come on,
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, I definitely grew up listening to 80s rock and roll and 90s hip hop. So, you know, I totally get the Motley Crue reference for sure.
I just wanted to add, the ending reminded me that feeling you have, that down feeling, like, I can't believe we went there. If you guys remember Seven with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt.
Oh yeah.
It's that same one. And you start thinking about the similarities between the two. From the get-go, that movie had what's it, Kevin Spacey's character. He was in control from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And you're still following the protagonist throughout. You're thinking they're going to win at the end, but from the very get-go, yeah, it's amazing how you probably didn't
win
even
at the end.
Yeah, you didn't probably think about this, but yeah, it's like, and that ending, if you guys remember, they didn't want to do it. The company, they said, you're going to have to come up with a different ending because this is too bleak. Yeah. And Brad Pitt says, we're going to do this ending, or I'm not going to do press for it.
Thank God. Can you imagine if they softened that ending? I mean,
it wouldn't have, the whole movie would be completely different if Morgan Freeman, you know, they caught the guy and they put him in handcuffs and you close it with Kevin Spacey behind bars. It wouldn't have the same impact. And I'm thinking your film probably wouldn't have the same impact.
Right.
As if they spoiled this guy, they scared him off, he hopped in a spaceship and left, right? This was the ending.
Yeah. And the whole performance of Kevin Spacey would have been wasted had they just, you know, because you're right, he's completely in the driver's seat that entire film. You never have a doubt. He's so methodical, he's so precise. You can tell it from his little journals that he has been planning this and he has got it, you know. And had he not won in the end, it would have felt inauthentic, I feel, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel maybe that's why I like tragedy a little bit, is because I don't think there's as many happy endings as we like to make believe. And we live in a cold, dark world sometimes, and maybe by approaching that, watching that, it'll make us, you know, kinder human beings, you know, instead of living in this fantasy of happy endings and idyllic roses at the end. You know, I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent, but you get my point. Is that?
Oh, we do. It's just like, hey, I agree. There are times where, yeah, you do want a happy ending in certain films.
Yeah.
And others you don't. You know.
I'm reminded of the movie As Good as It Gets, where Jack Nicholson has a little monologue where he talks about everybody has happy endings. Happy endings with picnics and noodle salad.
Yeah.
and you know, I'm one of those guys that I do like. I like to have hope in my films, and I like to see the James Bonds of the world, you know, save the day and all this stuff. There's fun, but I do appreciate when there is a blunt sense of reality on occasion, and I like that. That's what I think happens with, you know, with your film, is that we say not everything is roses and lilies and so forth, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna make it through.
And I think what's great about that too is that, you know, when a filmmaker has a willingness to make films like that, then every time you go into a theater to watch their film, you all of a sudden go, man, I have no idea whether this is going to turn out happy or sad. You know, like, I don't know if this is a tragedy or a triumph. One of my favorite directors right now is Cary Fukunaga, who's doing the new James Bond, and just and his first film, Sin Nombre, is one of my favorite films of all time, and it has an incredibly bleak ending. And I think there's something really real about that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate filmmakers willing to go there. You know?
Similar as Ari Aster's Hereditary, the ending was bleak, right? It was.
Midsommar is even more. Like,
and then you're thinking, with this ending, you know, if you switched it out to something soft, would it have the same effect? The rest of the movie just wouldn't fit. So this was the appropriate ending for the story, because the whole thing is set up from the very beginning. But I wanted to switch gears and talk about what's coming up for you, Braden. What you got in the works?
So I'm currently a co-producer in a film called Succubus that's written and directed, will be written and directed by my good friend RJ Daniel Hanna, who was actually the editor on What Lies Below. We just recently attached Ron Perlman to play one of the roles in it. It's
awesome.
Oh shit, Ron Perlman, hell yeah.
Yeah, we're actually still trying to get the financing in order, but we're getting there, and we expect to be shooting at the end of this year, and I'm really excited about that. It's a fantastic script about a young father who's going through a separation with his wife, and his crazy friend encourages him to join a dating app, and he swipes right on this mysterious woman named Adra, and all of a sudden she feels like she needs help. She's sending out signals like that she's in trouble. She sends this link, and he's stupid enough to click on it. And the next thing you know, he goes down the rabbit hole and ends up in the lair of the succubus, the man-eating demon. And it's just a brilliant script. It speaks to our online voyeurism and you know, the way we skew the reality of our personal lives compared to our online lives, and about fantasy and you know, sexuality. And I think it's necessary to speak of those things, because I do think Instagram and online and Facebook and those things have created a sensationalized view of the world that isn't quite accurate, right? And then for me, I am actually currently I have a script out in the world right now that we're looking to partner with called Mold, and Mold is about a fungus that starts growing in a person's apartment. His name's Vincent. And
the mold of the person.
The mold starts growing on his apartment, and you know, when he touches it, it starts growing on his skin, all over his body, but nobody else sees it. And then all of a sudden, he meets someone who not only sees it, but teaches him how to trip off of it, and realizes that it's a hallucinatory drug that can open up his consciousness. And so that's what we're working on right now. And yeah, we'll you know, hopefully I'll get to I'll be able to come back on with you guys.
Absolutely.
And bring Ron Perlman with you.
Come on. I wish I had a direct connection to Ron. Unfortunately, I do not.
I've loved him since
really
since Hellboy.
Yeah.
Hellboy, Beating the Beast.
Oh yeah,
the fabulous star.
Fantastic, and Sons of Anarchy was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to work with him. Never met him, but he seems really into the script. That's the reason he came on board, and yeah, we'll see. He's actually going to be. It's interesting too, because he could be the franchise character. So if there was sequels to it, he would be the lead.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, so we're hoping.
So where can everyone find you, Braden?
The best way to find me, unless you plan on sending me some hate mail for What Lies Below, is director _ BRD on Instagram. That's my most professional social media. I kind of keep my Facebook a little bit private for friends and family. But yeah, I'm happy to interact with people on Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter at director _ BRD. And yeah, I mean, I thank you for everyone for checking out the film. Thank you guys for having me. And it was a real pleasure. And I look forward to hopefully chatting film again with you one day.
Oh yeah, we're more than willing to have you come back anytime.
Kevin, what you working on?
Oh, I've got some reviews going for HNN, and I gotta do the movie Risen, the movie Malignant, and a couple of things kind of backed up since I started this work at home gig, but busy. That's all.
I'm super curious what you're going to think of Malignant.
I'm curious about it too.
I've heard mixed reviews, so I don't know.
It's very polarizing. Yeah.
It's all up to how you feel about films.
And that's the thing is like what's kind of alarming me, kind of gives me a red alert, is everybody's telling me, that I'm hearing it's great, you're gonna love it, and I'm kind of the guy where you're telling me that I have a pretty good feeling I'm gonna hate this film.
when they convince you that you're gonna love it, it means you're gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Al, what you got working on?
Yeah.
Well, I've been doing a lot of newer movies for the show. So we just finished this week's movie. It's just up, Black Pumpkin, which is actually shot like 2 years ago, and it feels like the 80s all over again. So I'm working on that, and I'm probably going to have a live or an undead co-host on one of the episodes coming up very soon. So a good friend of mine's going to stop in, and that'll be lots of fun. He has a skull too, so it'll be great.
Joe, what you got going on?
Oh, well, just gearing up for the most wonderful time of the year, Halloween. Throwing candy at kids. Scaring them.
The candy shotgun here.
That's right. I got my protection ready.
Warming up that arm?
I got it. No. But, yeah, I'm throwing black licorice at them. Go, run, catch it. No,
That's the Al Bundy school of dealing with kids on Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, now the Al Omega way of doing that would be to get some specially made red licorice that makes some froth, and it gives them red dye down their face during the pandemic. I would have that.
Yes. No, but I do have to say that I had fun earlier tonight. I was over off of Twitch, if any of you who don't know what Twitch is, it's a website. And I discovered that for all you hardcore horror fans, especially those involving a guy by the name of Clive Barker's film called Hellraiser, it seems Doug Bradley is doing a Twitch show. And earlier today, he had none other than Robert Englund on.
Ooh.
Talking about his career. So they do it once a week. The show's called Horror Market Hub Place off of Twitch. So check it out. They do it once every week, which I think it's Thursday night. So check it out.
Cool. Good. Awesome. Well, I think that's everything.
All right.
Yes, but let me, before we forget, I will be at HearstCon. What is it? Saturday the 23rd from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Nightmare Island. That's Mare Island for all the people that are driving there, with my lovely steed Lurch, signing autographs. Me, not the car, but if you ask, you never know.
That was HearstCon. What city?
HearstCon.
What city is that in?
That's in Vallejo.
Vallejo.
On Nightmare Island.
Yes. Lots of fun stuff for the kiddies there too.
Well, I'll go ahead and also mention Death Parade Film Fest, for which this show is part of, is happening Saturday, December 4th on eventive.org. The final selections are going out in about 7 days, So we're definitely hard at work in the back end, reviewing the last of the screeners, and looks like it's going to be an excellent show. Can't wait for everyone to be a part of it, and we're more than excited to get another season going after putting it on hold because of COVID. So even though it's virtual, we're still going to have a hell of a time because the quality of submissions and a number of them were very, very good. So Saturday, December 4th, go to deathparadefilmfest.com, and yep, that's all I got, guys.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You have a good night.
Good night.
Enjoy horror.
Good night.
Happy Halloween,
Great to be here.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.